This is lesson 26, using manipulatives to reduce fractions. And this is part 1 of this lesson. So as normal, please watch this lesson, go and do the lesson practice questions that apply to it, then come back, watch part 2, and go back and finish off the lesson practice. So what we're starting with is these are the manipulatives for fractions we have in class. They come in this lovely little container. Okay. And I think it goes all the way up to 12ths. I've only used these ones just so we can show kind of what we're looking at. So it gives you a whole, half, thirds, sixths, eighths, quarters, and fifths. Okay. So when you're looking to using manipulatives to reduce fractions, what you're looking for is you're looking for equivalence. Okay. Equivalent means the same. So for example, all of these right now are equivalent to 1. Okay. 2, 2 is the same as 1. 3, 3s are the same as 1. 6, 6s is the same as 1 because they all make a whole. Okay? As soon as I would take one of any of these out, it's no longer equivalent to a whole. So that's what we're looking at, is we're looking at using equivalence. And so instead of writing, let's say you have half add a half, and you get 2 over 2. Instead of writing 2 over 2, you know to reduce it to 1. It is 1 whole. Okay? If you have the same numerator as you do denominator, it is instantly 1 whole. All right, let's look at a little bit more, some of the more complicated ones. So if we take these, and we're going to look at these two, thirds and sixths. Okay? So thirds and sixths. Okay, these are thirds, these are sixths. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Now, if I had 2/6 of a shape, okay, what that actually is, if I am saying I have 2/6, is 2/6 is the same as a third. And I can tell using my manipulatives because if I put them together, they fit perfectly over a third. Okay, so 2/6 is equal to 1/3. Those are equivalent fractions. What that means is that if you were adding 1/6 and 1/6 and adding them together and get 2/6, instead of writing 2/6 and leaving that as your answer, you would reduce it and do it as 1/3. So with the reducing, now that we're starting it, whenever you work with fractions, you want to reduce. You want to get to what's called lowest terms. That's what these are. These are lowest terms. Okay, now there are other ways to do this as well without using manipulatives, but we wanted to show you with the manipulatives first. So see, 2/6 perfectly on top of 1/3. Okay, if I had 4/6, I would have 2/3. Okay, so 4/6 is equal to 2/3. Okay, these are equivalent fractions. Okay, now I can tell they're equivalent. If I didn't have manipulatives, I could tell they were equivalent using using multiplication and division. So how that works when you're turning something to lowest terms and you don't have manipulatives is you divide by the greatest common factor. So if you remember back in lesson 20, we talked about greatest common factor. If you need a refresher, go back and watch it. But you would look at these two numbers and you would try and find the greatest common factor. So for example, the factors of 4 is 1, 4, and 2, and the factors of 6 are 1, 6, 3, and 2, which means my greatest common factor is 2. So I would divide both of these by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and I get my lowest terms. Okay? That's how you get lowest terms if you don't have manipulatives. So you can either use manipulatives or you can do the division with greatest common factor. But both ways work. Let's take a look at another one. So if we have half, okay, or better yet, let's say we have 2/4. Okay, if we have 2/4, that is equivalent to or the same as a half. Okay, because if you watch, these quarters fit perfectly on top of my half, just like that. So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. And again, the 1/2 is your lowest terms. I can't take that any lower than it is. If I tried to find the greatest common factor between 1 and 2, well, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 is just 1 and 2. So the greatest common factor they have in common is 1. When you get to that point, you can no longer go lower. This is lowest terms. Okay, for 2, if I was looking for my lowest, my greatest common factor to be able to do division, I am looking at that. My greatest common factor is 2. Divide both of these by 2, and I get 1/2. Okay, so again, you can either use manipulatives if you have them in class, or you can do division using greatest common factors to find lowest terms or to reduce. Okay, we'll do one more. Okay, looking at eighths, I have 2/8. Okay, so here is 2/8. And I want to take these to my lowest terms or reduce them as far as I can go. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to do one of two things. One, I can find the greatest common factor. Or two, I can use my manipulatives and see which one they fit into. Let's try the half. Do they fit into the half? No, they do not. Okay, let's try the third. Do they fit into the third? No, they do not. There's still some left. Do they fit into the quarter? Yes, they do. They fit into a quarter perfectly. So using the manipulative, I found out that 2/8 is the same as 1/4. Now, if you had chosen not to use manipulatives and you had chosen to do division, you would have done greatest common factor and you would have realized that the greatest common factors were 2. Okay, 2 is your greatest common factor. So you would have divided both of these by 2 and you would have gotten 1 and 4. That is using manipulatives to reduce fractions, part 1. We've reduced fractions to our lowest terms. This was lesson 26 for course 1.